just retweeted it seconds ago at Real Alex Jones, a tweet by Matt Drudge, I guess yesterday, that I'd missed. He simply said, have an exit plan out of this country. And I can't believe that we have to sit here and seriously talk about stuff like this, but that is a very reasonable thing to say. Have an exit plan. My problem is there's really nowhere to run. What, Northern Europe, Switzerland, Iceland? Drudge Report founder leaves a cryptic 4-word tweet open to interpretation. Have an exit plan. There's no open to interpretation. Only morons would understand what that means. You've got the producer of Schindler's List coming out saying for the first time ever he's afraid to live in America. Obama is a dictator now, folks. He is a dictator. And they're preparing the ascension of Hillary after he goes to continue the dictatorship of the stinking Clintons. And that's why, as much as I hate him, even the puppet rival, Chris Christie's being destroyed. The other viable rival, Governor McDonald, one of the front runners, destroyed. Dinesh D'Souza with films coming out to expose the Clintons. Because I, off record, happen to have been told about Dinesh D'Souza. After my show Thursday, when I talked to Bob Barr, I was contacted and I was told, do not tell anybody where you got this, but look up USA versus Dinesh D'Souza. And I searched it in the federal site and it didn't come up. And then I called the person and they said, I'm not going to tell you anymore. And then, boom, I turned the Drudge Report on my computer, and there it was. It had just broken minutes before. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But the issue is they were not just planning to come out with the film America. They were planning to come out with another one, obviously up against Hillary. And they've got Dinesh D'Souza's phones tapped, folks. The point is, and again, I have sources directly in to what's going on and what's happening. And, of course, you see the famous producer. In fact, you guys reprint me that in Newsmax saying, quote, this is the first time he's ever feared being in the United States. And these are the real discussions that have to happen. Because you see all the crimes that have been committed by the people that are running things. And you see how all of this is unfolding. And you see how they get away with everything they do. Well, historically, 100% of the time, that leads to an attempted 2 words. 1 word and then a composite word. Total takeover. Historically, total takeover. And what happens in Soviet Russia or happened in the Bolshevik Revolution before that or Nazi Germany, you know the cases. People always deny it's happening because you've got courage and you're comfortable where you live and you think you're going to be able to beat them and you just stay there fighting them. And then they come and arrest you and kill your family in front of you or put you in a forced labor camp. And that's the point we've gotten to here is that if we don't turn this around soon, America's so done. What's the point? Just get out of here. Because we are the center of the storm. It says they're trolling Illuminati skeptics. Well, I didn't know that Illuminati skeptics are so important and Illuminati critics are so important that the Grammys every year now and the Super Bowl and every other big national event has occultic ceremonies. No, folks, it's because these people are into the occult. On record, Katy Perry says she sold her soul to the devil. All of these people are on record saying they have sold their souls to the devil. Now, whether you believe in the devil existing or not, the archetypal manifestation of the devil, war, death, corruption, all of it is manifesting, and these people are trying to bring it about. What are the villains doing in archetypal literature from around the world? They're trying to overthrow the world, trying to destroy the life force, trying to create death and destruction. What's the Bible say the archetypal devil does? Kill, steal, and destroy. What does the Red King or the devil want to do in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King? He's trying to overthrow the planet and shift its poles and throw it out of orbit of the sun, killing everyone on board. That is the nature of the devil, is to overthrow all that is good. Whether the devil is real or not is not up for debate, atheist, because those that follow the mindset of the archetypal devil are real, and hence the devil is real. You understand that? Men envisioned rockets to the moon 500 plus years ago, and now we've sent rockets to the moon. You understand that? Because we are creators made in the image of the creator of the heavens. You can say, oh, well, that's delusional people running around in the desert 3,000 years ago with Moses saying that. Well, did it happen? Have you looked around? We are creators. We are builders. We're master builders. We're builders. The devil is a destroyer. Okay? So I choose to be with the builder, not the destroyer. I'm a builder. I'm a creator. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I'm a better fighter than a fighter because I am a lover. Any real man knows that. Any real man doesn't have fear except for fear of the innocent being trodden underfoot. And then you're ready to do what it takes. That means hacking 50 people up with a meat cleaver like Samson. It's time for good people to find their strength. It's time for good people to decide what they stand for. It's time for good people to stop giving the world over to evil. As for me and my family, we have never really developed an exit strategy except for total nuclear meltdown, and I have looked at areas that are out of the main trade winds and Coriolis of the northern hemisphere, and it's just, there's not a lot of good places to go. I could move to some farm, live extremely low-key and poor, and probably be left alone if I moved to the mountains, plain areas of somewhere like Chile. I've looked at Chile. Very beautiful, somewhat more moral people compared to some of the other areas in Latin America. A lot of European expatriates and American expatriates. Costa Rica is beautiful, but when the hell goes to in a handbasket, it's going to melt down as well. You go to the outback of Australia, it's globalist run, but if you ran and tried to be left alone, you probably could be for at least a while. There's some areas of Northern Europe that are pretty good. Iceland is okay, but there's 400,000 people there and tenuous resources, but at least they've got their heads screwed on straight, and that's really what matters. If humans just work together for liberty, we're unstoppable. Switzerland, if you've got the money, which I really don't, not long term, you got to really bring stuff to the table to go to Switzerland. And the list just goes on and on from there. There's really nowhere to run, and my gut tells me that I'm not going to run. I need to stay here and try to fight and beat this. The problem is you look at the general public, who even though they're awake to the fact that we're going into tyranny, they still have no respect for themselves and almost have a hopelessness to just turn over the world to this evil. And if you look at textbook autocratic tyrannies, systems that the tyrannous spider weaves throughout history, this is the most thought out, premeditated, scientifically prepared evil the world has ever seen that now has hijacked and runs America and is going into overdrive in the personage and the personality and the signet and logo and figurehead and shield and foil and shill that is the abomination Barack Hussein Obama. And now I realize that one of the few areas where I've not been visionary is Obama, because I began to think that I knew that all politicians were puppets run by the globalist, which they are. But then in Obama, we're seeing like a baseball pitcher who's the closer in the 8th and 9th inning. And I see every sign they're making the move to close. And I try to hope, and I try to pray, and I try to look at how we're winning on many fronts, but that's why they're closing. But then that's why I realize I've got to stay and put my fat in the fire no matter what happens and double down. But I don't blame anybody who wants to get out of here. Because here's the deal. It is foreign mega banks that are running things, who use socialism to control the general population but are really fascist, crony capitalist, anti-free market monopoly men. But their ground level and mid-level enforcers are degenerate, Luciferian, satanic, Jacobin, French Revolution types. And they've got a score to settle with people like me. And they don't want even money. They don't even want the sex slaves. They don't even want to be above the law. They want to torture good men, women, and children. They want us in dungeons. They want to suck our life force out. They want to dominate goodness. And I'm telling you, looking at these spiders licking their lips, wanting to literally suck me dry, it doesn't cause fear, but I don't want to give them what they want at the same time. And then my instinct tells me, listen, you've done enough. Get out of there. You can talk to people from a distance, but then I've built this organization and this operation. When they start arresting members of the media, folks that are, I mean, I'll just say it here. And I've got this from 2 different high-level sources. D'Souza has this America film coming out about trying to deprogram the minorities that have been put on the Ku Klux Klan Kool-Aid, the Democratic Party. And they do not want people knowing the Democratic Party was the Ku Klux Klan and decided to go race politics the other way in 1963 when they knew they couldn't win anymore. LBJ made that decision. And I know D'Souza's been looking at that, and that reportedly some of the things that are in his film. And they're not going to let that narrative be told. And then they're not going to let D'Souza make a film about Hillary. And so they're going to try to put him in jail. And when you see the mainstream corporate whore media line up and call for him to be imprisoned, not having any instinct for their profession or honor. I mean, you can say what you want about the cops, and they're corrupt in many areas, but at least they look out for each other. At least they understand that the whole system's not looking out for them, that they're the bottom of the barrel of the government where the rubber meets the road, that are given all the dirty jobs, and at least police know to stick up for each other. Where is the press sticking up for each other, you morons? If they can destroy Dinesh D'Souza, they can destroy anybody, you morons. And then you won't even be needed as a minion of the system anymore. Once they get rid of the real press, they're going to get rid of the faux press, dummies. You have no basic instinct. You have no common sense. You have nothing, morons. And we're going to lose due process and lose the weights and balances, just weights and balances, and then everything is going to go into a tyrannical black hole, you fools. I've told you this before. Picture our republic as a gate against incredible evil. Look at the rest of the world. You ought to travel. It's hellish. Look at Western society. It's falling. It was literally godlike compared to other societies. That's why everyone wanted to go to Western Europe and wanted to go to America. And now all of it's falling, ladies and gentlemen. The gates are physically, financially, spiritually, culturally falling. They're doing satanic ceremonies in every national television event. Just like they did in Rome, just like they did in Babylon, just like they did everywhere else before all hell breaks loose. And now image the walls like a force field shield that are becoming very thin. And the enemy's able to jump through the gate now more and more. The enemy is now amongst us, but that's only the vanguard of the enemy. When those gates fully fall, it's going to be French Revolution, folks, in the streets. They're going to use all the anti-government fervor that's been built up that they created against everything good that was in the system and bring everything down. Because the goal of the Jacobin Illuminati is to trample and be trampled, to have burning cities and black pyramids covered in blood. I'm not kidding. The gate is opening. Satan is sticking his big dragon nose through it. Here's an example. I had my children over at my parents' last night. We went out and had dinner, and we were jumping in their hot tub in their heated pool back and forth, and they had water guns out there shooting cold water at each other. They were filling up out of the water hose and screaming and yelling. That was obviously the sound of happy children shrieking. And I said to my parents, I said, you know, one of your neighbors, a lot of Democratic Party signs around here, and I'm not kidding, I just know the type. I said, they're going to call the police. And my dad's like, come on, they're obviously kids yelling and screaming, having fun. And I said, no, the police are coming. So they go in, take showers, get dressed. I'm getting ready to go. 2 cop cars pull up at my parents' gate. They've got the alarm code, so they come in. And they go, yeah, it sounded like somebody was being killed, your neighbor said. Well, no, it was children playing with water guns. He sees all the steam coming off the pool. Oh, looks fun. All right, so you're David, you know, saying to my dad. Yeah, and he goes, all right, sorry. I'll go tell your neighbor. And one cop car screeched off. The other cop car went over and talked to the neighbor. And I told my dad, I said, do you know that neighbor? He goes, no. And I said, they're going to call the police on you from now on. He goes, how do you know all this? I go, I know the new spirit of America. They don't like the fact that you weren't doing wrong or that someone wasn't in trouble. They're going to feel bad now. Watch out. Now, they're on 4 acres, right? Plus their neighbors, none of them like that. They live in South Austin with 4 acres, an old piece of property. Everybody else is on like 1/4 acres or less. So it's all, you know, envious eyes looking over the fence, literally. I know the spirit of this evil land, ladies and gentlemen. I know its spirit. And I think I'm going to go over and talk to that neighbor and let him know. Anything gets made up, I'm going to sue your butt. You understand that, bug eye? And here's what I'm getting at here. That person won't get concerned about Obama operating as a tyrant. He's got like 14 Democratic Party signs in his yard at any one time. She does. I'm sure it's she, both of them. They're the same ones we were doing firecrackers 2 years ago, called the police on us. I'm talking about firecrackers, folks. I mean, black cats in the driveway. They were going on everywhere around us. Here come the police. And they're not worried about Obama becoming a dictator or GMO or fluoride in the water or Fukushima. They're not worried about open borders, wages going down, total criminality, the government going to legalize millions of felons, aggravated felons. They're not worried about any of that. They're not worried about the dollar being devalued. They watch Rachel Maddow at night. The government's their friend. Everyone else is bad. And if you're a family with kids laughing, that's evil. Just like the big feminist magazine came out yesterday and said mothers with children that live at home with their husbands are disgusting. We're disgusting. You understand that? We're disgusting. Children laughing and screaming with water guns are disgusting. Jumping in and out of the hot tub in the pool. That's disgusting. Total world government. Satanic ceremonies on the Grammys. Gay people being married. Shoving it in everybody's face. Sounds like Babylon. That is good. Family's bad. Justice, bad. Tyranny, good. Because they're part of the gang. And that's what I'm trying to get at here, is that we all need to stand up and speak out against evil. We all need to recognize what it is and say no to it. And we need to do like Ted Cruz has said, Obama is frightening and dangerous. And now Matt Drudge has come out, and I've retweeted it at Real Alex Jones. Please retweet it from there, folks. He says, have an exit plan. And he's just got away with words, saying it's so simple to get people thinking. Because I would say you got to have an exit plan because it looks like they're going to implode the economy and go after their political enemies. And historically, this shows that it's a problem. I would talk for 2 hours trying to explain why you have to have an exit plan. He would just say, have an exit plan. And everybody then has a debate and goes, oh, yeah, I know why we need an exit plan. As Mark Slavo reports in his article on it, Matt Drudge issues warning, have an exit plan. And you've got the former main producer, Gerald Molen, of Schindler's List, saying for the first time, I fear the government and I'm scared living in America. Well, you should be concerned, folks, and you should be concerned about what's going on. Because this is classical evil. And look, I'm not trying to scare people for Obama. We just have to have a real discussion about the fact that the Republican Party and Boehner, because they're all blackmailed and controlled, are scared. And they're all lining up to say, hey, Obamacare, NSA, open borders, power plants, guns, you do whatever you want. And now they're going after politicians and media people. Look out. There's not much further to fall. The answer to this evil is to 110% up our game in the establishment's face and call them out. And evil is making its move because it knows that the dawn of liberty, a resurrection of freedom is coming. We're at the bottom of a decadent cycle right now. And it's either going to go into an even deeper cycle of evil or we're going to come out of this evil. And I personally want to come out of it without having to go through the living hell that other generations have gone through. It usually happens every 3 generations. Not every generation has to go through something like this. There's different cycles and many cycles, but it's been followed by historians for thousands of years. But now you add all the high tech, you add the giant population, you add all these other ingredients, more sophisticated propaganda, more sophisticated social control, the establishment being able to be cloistered and separate from the general population more than ever. They themselves are smoking their own dope. And it is a recipe for doom. And the instinct is, as you see the doors closing with capital controls and to not be able to get out of the U.S. for any political reason, as you see the political persecution accelerate, as you see Obama operating effectively as a dictator 2.0, making the office of the president dictatorial by every historical measurement, there is the instinct to flee the country. And I don't bemoan anybody that flees it. Believe me, I am on the razor's edge of decision. But that's at a conscious level. At a subconscious level, I'm never leaving. And I know I'm committed to the end, whatever happens, that I will go on to the end. We will defend our island, whatever the cost may be. That's the famous Churchill speech. Will you guys print me the Churchill speech? We will defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall go on to the end. We shall never surrender. And that's really the attitude you have to have is, I'm dug in, like the Alamo, I'm going all the way. But I don't blame anybody that tries to get out of this country immediately. And everyone should have an emergency backup plan about where you're going to go, how you're going to disappear, because they're not going to have the forces to go after everybody at first. They want to just intimidate everybody, nuke some cities, say we did it, or release bioweapons, say the Patriots did it, and then try to convince everyone to go along with it. And if the corporate whore media goes along with it when that happens, you're fools. You're all going to lose everything you've got. I mean, that's the thing for the people that serve the system. Guaranteed, you empower this system, you are literally burning your own house down. You are idiots. I'm begging those of you who are part of the progressive, socialist, communist, liberal system. You work for foreign banks on record. You are just the political takeover army they're going to use. They'll use fascist, they'll use right-wing, they'll use left-wing. Read Carol Quigley's book. They're going to use a left-wing takeover in America. That's their attack system. That's their weapon system they're using. And you've got to admit you've been wrong. You've got to admit you've been conned. You've got to have an epiphany and break with the system. Mainline Republicans are breaking with the mainline Republicans. They're becoming libertarians on record. It's all over the news. I told you years ago it was already happening because I'm on the ground. I see what's going on. The Republican Party is being taken over by patriots, is being taken over by the liberty movement, and it is scaring the daylights out of the globalists. That's why you've got Republican leadership and Democratic leadership circling the wagons, pooling the funding through the National Association of Manufacturers, the National Association of Businesses, the National, all the big associations are getting together saying, crush the Tea Party, crush the libertarian takeover. Because we could save this republic. We could save the American empire by having soft power and exporting 1776 our ideas. We are meant to be discredited and lose our power as the lone superpower, to transfer that to the global corporate system, and we'll just be used as a Hessian military recruiting ground where we're so poor, our fine warrior stock will be used to empower the last wave of human oppression with the last human army in the next 20 years. We will be the last human army. We will also be the first robot army. They're going to bring in the robot army as they phase out the human army, and then they're going to defeat the other human armies. This has all been battle planned. Battle planned. And they're going to re-educate this whole country. They are going to bring us down. We're done. They are going to strangle us slow. They're going to take their time with us. I'm telling you, you cannot let them win, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm committed. I'm not going to selfishly, for my own skin, run. And I'm not saying people that are talking about getting out are selfish. If you're just a media person who can operate from anywhere in the world, then it's probably strategic to leave the United States, because this is the main battleground. And if you're in the rear with the gear, if you've got the brains, you know, we should probably, to use a Starship Troopers analogy, stick the brain bugs off somewhere. My issue is I've got to be on the front lines. I'm meant to be out front. That's what I've always done, and that's what I'm going to do. But it takes all kinds to beat this system. But I want to say something to people that work for the system. You know what I'm saying is true. More than anybody, you live it every day. That's why it's actually easier to wake up government people than any other group, because they're seeing the BS for themselves up front. The military, the police, and I understand you're compartmentalized. I understand they've got you under a magnifying glass. But if you all just start not complying and all just quietly start not going along with the system, it's over for them. Before they get their cashless society in, before they get their AI total control, future predictive system in, before they get their robot drones fully in, before they get the end of humans, end of free will system in, we've got maybe 5-10 years to really dig in and commit. And believe me, they're taking a risk purging people that threatened Hillary Clinton in 2016. They're taking a real risk, because they know 2014 is everything. They know if we get libertarian constitutionalists in the Republican machine, which we're doing, it's over for them. They know they're in deep trouble. That's why they're showing themselves right now with the political persecutions, with the arrest. They're trying to intimidate everybody. And I think we point out they're trying to intimidate us. And we point out they're a bunch of thugs. And we shamefully, expose. We shame the corporate whore, fake left and fake right, but mainly the left, of the Huffington Post and Slate and Salon and Media Matters run by the White House and MSNBC, who are chortling at political arrest and setups when they should be absolutely freaking out right now. I mean, you should be absolutely freaked out. You think this evil isn't going to eat you? The first group they're going to take out once they fully take over is you. Just, by the way, that's a historical fact. You ought to want to have a couple ships here that you can jump into in this big naval battle that's going on. You want to sink every ship out here in this icy sea of tyranny. I mean, you're fools. Even a corrupt person should want due process and want some type of checks and balances. Some type of diversity? Don't you have any sense, you people? No, you're gangsters. You're thugs. You're part of a crew that you think's taking over. You're idiots. You know who the biggest losers of World War II were? It was the Germans. 20 million Germans out of 70 million, 21 million are estimated to have died. Only about 6-7 million of those are military. What is that? What is that? 12, 13, 14 million German citizens? How'd that work out for you? Think that worked out real good for you? Just because you can race like a cancer through the body politic and nobody can stop you? And by the way, the Germans were set up as well with World War I that the British intelligence started. And then Hitler was funded by British intelligence to get into power. That's declassified. Didn't mean they ran Hitler, just like they didn't run Saddam or they didn't fully run bin Laden. They put these guys in and then set them up later. They told Hitler he was going to be given the whole world. They almost had a fascist takeover in 1935 here in the U.S. Read the McCormick-Dickstein Committee hearings. Smedley Butler. Learn history. The globalists had a fascist and a socialist model that they were using as a dialectic. And the very same big mega banks, the very same Rockefeller banks, look it up. This is mainline history. They've got New York Times best-selling, Pulitzer Prize-winning books on this. What's that book written by Black on IBM? I mean, go read that. And they literally chose, it's like they had a bunch of races ahead of the Kentucky Derby with a bunch of different tyranny horses, war horses. And then as they got down towards the end, they had just two empires, and they played them off against each other to consolidate power. And then they adopted all the Nazi technologies that they liked into the American-British Empire, and that's why it's so similar today, because these globalists sit there and play all sides off against the middle, that is we the people. And no one, repeat, no one should want to be part of this. This is bad news for everybody. Where is your common sense? IBM and the Holocaust. Yeah, that's the book. All of you should want to understand what the globalists say they're doing, plan to do, and have done. Because, man, it's their world. We're living in their world. They really do run about 90% of the planet now. They're trying to get full control. And when they get full control, look out, boys and girls, because they plan on killing almost everybody. And I just don't know how I can say that to you any other way. That's why I'm going to stay and fight. But then my brain goes, wait a minute. If you left the country, it would send a bigger signal. And it would show everybody how serious it was, and it would remove you from their clutches. The problem is they're grabbing people's money that's legal and after tax globally now. I mean, presidents of third world countries of Latin America have their planes grounded by NATO flying out of Russia to see if Snowden's on board. They already run the world. They've already got it where UN police come and grab you on fake warrants wherever they want. They already engage in illegal grabbing of people everywhere. That's the whole point, is that leaving is almost an illusion unless I went to Russia. The globalists do not control Russia, but it's like one black hat against the other. I go to Russia. Do I get shaken down by the Russian mafia? Then the media says, oh, Alex Jones went to Russia. No, I'm not going to Russia. Never been to Russia. I'm an American. Nothing against Russia. But things might get so bad someday, I got to go to Russia. I mean, I cannot believe our country is so evil that I'd have to move to Chile and then sit there with illegal firearms at a farm and wait for them to try to send somebody to interdict and put a bag over my head and put me on a State Department aircraft. And I'm not doing that. You go ahead and try to come put a bag on my head and see what happens. You sick freaks. I'm not scared of you. You need to understand that. I'm figuring out what the best thing is to make sure in the end we beat you. And you know what's going to happen once there's trials. You're going to have public trials, Nuremberg style. And then you know. I don't take any pleasure in that, by the way. You're like a roach I don't want to step on. Just get out of my house, and you're not going to get stepped on. You stupid roaches. If you had any sense, you wouldn't join with this evil. But you're so into evil, you're like a moth to flame, you have to commit to it. Matt Drudge said it all. I retweeted it at Real Alex Jones. We'll put that up on screen for folks. Real Alex Jones on Twitter. Matt Drudge, have an exit plan. Covering now. Matt Drudge, have an exit plan. I must have retweeted that wrong. I wanted to tweet it where we show his tweet. I need to learn how to do all this Twitter stuff. But the whole point is, maybe during the break they'll show me how to do that so I can actually send his tweet so people can properly retweet it. There's a great article up on Infowars.com by Mac Slavo that gives an example of why Drudge is saying this instead of the other news articles that made jokes about it. I mean, I love people that make jokes about the fact that we are 2 minutes to midnight here. Matt Drudge issues warning, have an exit plan. Absolutely. And then I've got all this other insane news. Look at this. DHS drone crashes in the Pacific off California coast. North Dakota man is first American arrested, jailed with drone help. First they've told you about. Unbelievable. Look at this article up on Infowars.com. FEMA preparing for motor coach evacuation of the general population. They're preparing to have thousands of buses move millions of people at FEMA checkpoints. That's on the Fed Biz Ops article website. Federal agency has companies for operational support, and they also are an event of national emergency. They're also hiring hundreds of thousands of internment specialists, and they train to, quote, take on the Tea Party. There's no more pieces missing from the puzzle, folks. It's all there. Katy Perry, Illuminati priestess, conducts witchcraft ceremony in front of the entire world, and the mainstream media makes fun of those, saying, oh, they're just trolling you anti-Illuminati people. I thought none of this existed. What constitution? Obama to emphasize intention to use unilateral presidential authority. More dictatorship announcements. Democratic congressman admits Obamacare won't work after announcing retirement. It isn't meant to work. It's meant to bankrupt the country. We're going to be getting to all that and more. Huge news across the board. Record cold hitting during the global warming. Senator loses cancer doctor to Obamacare. Iran is more saber-rattling. There's just so much crazy stuff going on. Russian central bank says Bitcoin users can face jail time. It's all coming up here today. Boehner and the Republicans to fully gut our borders and our republic. It's all coming up. By the way, it's essential you spread the word about the broadcast in these dark times. What can you do? You simply email your friends and family every day telling them to listen to the live feeds and send them the link at Infowars.com to the listen page. You send them the free links to the video and audio and podcast page at Infowars.com/show. You call into talk radio stations that aren't carrying the show and you tell them carry the Alex Jones Show. You go into your church and you hand out copies of my films like Fall the Republican Obama Deception. You put my films on local access television. You go on there yourself. You spread the word. You go to city council. You go to state house. You go and blow the trumpet. You warn the people. I want to thank everybody for that information 40 minutes ago. And I'd also like to let you know that there's the video feeds at Infowars.com/show. And then GCNlive.com has backup streams as well. So again, thank you to the listeners. I will continue to monitor things myself. Now, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have several guests coming up on the broadcast today. We're going to have Wayne Madsen on for 40 minutes of the next hour after I cover more news. To get into the latest on the NSA and the purge Obama is launching. And then Jerry Peterman, who heads up Fukushima Update Report, he'll pop in for 30 minutes as well to give us just how serious the situation is and the ongoing cover-up that we're continuing to try to get the media to focus in on. But briefly, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to just remind everyone that we are listener-supported. And we're going to run this, I think, until a few days into the next month, and then that's it until next December into January, where you can get 5.3 months free. That's what there's already a 2-month discount when you get a yearly membership, but then we add 3+ more months on, so it's a total of 5.3 months free when you get a yearly membership during the New Year's special. So you pay for 6.7 months, you get 5.3 months free at prisonplanet.tv to see my films, my documentaries, the special live reports. I think we're going to do some extra live coverage tonight of the State of the Union. There is just so much coming on, so much coming up, so much happening. And this is our own platform so that we can't be censored as easily like we've been on some of the other platforms like YouTube and others. And, of course, we're on those platforms as well, but this is the big, exclusive, high-def place to get it. And when you get a membership, $5.95 a month, or get a yearly, it comes out to $3-something a month. It makes the transmission possible, so thank you all for your support. the toll-free number to join us on air. We'll be talking about that, too, in the next hour is 800-259-9231. Are you concerned about the move towards dictatorship? Should we flee the country? Is there anywhere to run? That's the subject, 800-259-9231. But again, prisonplanet.tv. prisonplanet.tv is the place to go and subscribe. And then with all the different radiation increasing and the rest of it, I use Survival Shield, proprietary nascent iodine to protect myself and my family. It's incredible. You've heard the rave reviews, and your purchase helps fund this operation to continue on and be strong in the face of the enemy. So thank you for purchasing that. If you haven't, try it out. And if you don't like it, which no one has given us a bad report yet, doesn't matter. You've supported the InfoWar. So it's a win-win-win-win-win. InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsLife.com. Or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Pro Pure Water Filtration, promo code WATER, 10% off the already lowest price. That's at InfoWarsStore.com. We have great coffee, my favorite type of coffee from Southern Mexico. Wake Up America brand. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsLife.com. And you're funding free speech. We got Wayne Madsen coming up in 20 minutes to talk about all the tyranny, the purges going on, the secret police units, the NSA info. He's a whistleblower. We're going to be taking your calls and covering other news. I'm just so upset that I can't cover all the other crazy things that are happening because Obama is becoming a dictator officially. They're gutting the country. We're in a depression. And all I hear about is the Super Bowl coming up. And it literally is like out of a science fiction movie how crazy this is. And they're persecuting and arresting members of the press that are exposing Obama. They are getting away with incredible crimes publicly. And when the corrupt do that, they go for everything. They're going for everything because culturally they're losing the battle. Culturally, libertarian ideas are taking over. Renaissance ideas are taking over. So they are coming after us. You understand, folks? If we give in to them, it's even worse. The best course is fighting them. The best course is standing against them. It's the only course. Let's go to Steve in Chicago. Steve, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing, Alex? Long-time listener. The issue is, I think, open housing started the open borders, which started open trade. Now, we go back into the 1960s. It was states' rights. The Right Honorable Governor of the great state of Alabama, George Corley Wallace, was standing up to the federal government. He stood in that doorway of the University of Alabama. Now, how many of the other people stood with him? That's the question I have. And you know, the issue is, if you don't have the open housing, and I never found out your position or the libertarian position on open housing, how that was a causation factor. I'd like to know how you feel about open housing.
Well, that's a very complex issue. I think it's wrong to deny people housing based on their race or religion, especially if it's something like an apartment house. But at the same time, I think individuals, if they don't particularly, let's say like they're Satanist or something, you know, there's got to be some right to refuse service. But it's an evil to deny people, but then it becomes an even greater evil now that they're saying under Agenda 21, you've got to live in a 250-square-foot coffin apartment. So see, it shows how the Democratic Party couldn't win with segregation, so they flipped and became against it, but created the government reservations and the government housing. So it's an incredibly complex issue. But I would not say if I had a house, I mean, if the people's money was green, if they were white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever it was, I wouldn't sell them a house. But if they were like white trash, meth dealing, you know, people with devil tattoos all over them, and their wife had cigarette burns on them, and they wanted to buy my house, I would not sell it to them because I wouldn't want to be mean to my neighbors. But if it was a nice, upstanding black family, I'd sell them the house in a minute. I mean, but if it was a degenerate black family, I'd say, oh, okay, I'll meet with you later. But, I mean, yeah, obviously I wouldn't sell them the house. Does that make sense?
Well, the only issue is the rhetoric of white trash. I never hear black trash. I never hear brown trash.
Oh, there's lots of black trash. I'll say it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and the other issue, well, Randy Paul was talking about privacy, and then he gets up there, and then he accuses Bill Clinton, who did something in private with that Monica Lewinsky. And now, wait a minute. Let's be consistent here. If we're going to keep the privacy, let's keep that private. And the third issue, I wanted to tell you these things about the Rothschilds. Number one, Carl Coleman Rothschild. He got for funding the Vatican Bank. He got the Holy George Award from the Knights of Malta, KC. The second thing I want to tell you, 1871, after the Franco-Prussian War, the Parisian communist takeover, every palace in Chile and
hold on, I'm going to hold you over. Just tell me, this is McGruff, help take a bite out of crime.
This is McGruff. Help take a bite out of crime.
All right, I'm going to come back to you, McGruff. McGruff only, he's been calling for like 15 years. It's very special when McGruff calls. And we're going to go to Billy, Jerry. Well, the original NSA whistleblower, Wayne Madsen, who's got incredible inside the Beltway and international contacts, is going to be joining us at the start of the next segment. We're taking some of your phone calls right now. Matt Drudge tweeted yesterday. I've retweeted at Real Alex Jones. Matt Drudge tweeted that we all need to have an exit plan. And so I asked the question to everybody out there, what is your exit plan? Should we be talking about an exit plan if America totally falls? Because here's the problem. The establishment does not plan on just taking over. They plan on re-engineering and persecuting people, and they're already doing it with Dinesh D'Souza and governors, anybody that challenges Hillary Clinton. They're making the path ready. They're getting ready to legalize all the illegals. They're giving them driver's license everywhere to vote and to block the libertarian movement that has taken over the Republican Party. And I'm trying to reach out to folks, you know, to the immigrant group, but they are being funded by the government with food stamps and welfare, and it's a lost cause. It is a lost cause, and it will drive the wages down. All the studies show it. It will not help Latin America. It is so sad. I wish Mexico was some first world country with all its resources. That's 3 times the resources in major studies the U.S. does. And I wish I could move down there and get away from all this. I wish there was some free country to go to. I've had to look at Latin America, Chile. Rural areas are some of the only places to go where the people are halfway moral and not completely out of control with a mafia government. Believe me. And it's so sad. I mean, our country is millimeters from falling. And we need to get a giant wave of libertarians in the Republican Party ticket, which is starting to happen. And we need to start prosecuting the Attorney General and Obama and all these people to turn back the precedent that the president can be a dictator and above the law. I mean, I called for Bush's impeachment. I called for Clinton's impeachment because they've all been crooks. But under Obama, it's 10, 15, 20 times worse. You've got the media going, well, he is an imperial president, but isn't that kind of needed? That's what we need, somebody that can get stuff done. And I know lately all I've been doing is harping on this. There's never been more news to cover. And I'm getting to some of it. But this is front and center. Not just for the U.S., but the whole world. And I knew Obama would be their puppet, their front man. I thought maybe they were so worried about revolution under Bush that they would have him be a unifier. He's just promising to do that, and that, you know, maybe they wanted to fix the economy and move forward because they were skimming off the top. But now I realize they want to fully break the country now. They have such a hatred of the American people and freedom and guns and the Bible and bitter clingers, and that the Democratic Party socialist and communist operatives that the foreign banks are running have such enmity towards anything good that they're not going to back off. They're coming for all of us. They're all a bunch of soft cowards themselves, but they run the ATF, the FBI, the NSA, the CIA, the state police are federalized, and they're coming after everybody. And I look at Mary Landrieu and Chucky Schumer and all of them, and they're all a bunch of crooks. They're all a bunch of gangsters. And you've got former Secretary of Defense Gates endorsing Obama. I mean, it is disgusting. You've got Boehner, the Speaker of the House, saying, get ready to totally legalize all the illegals, and then whoever else comes after that, and knowing full well it's the Democratic Party voting bloc, because you've got the big national associations of broadcasters committing suicide supporting the Republican leadership. You've got the National Association of Manufacturers, the small business groups, the Chamber of Commerce. They're all endorsing going after the Tea Party. Type in Chamber of Commerce funds anti-Tea Party movement, because we're the only opposition, even though the Tea Party wasn't perfect. But it came out of Ron Paul, an anti-war, pro-liberty, anti-big government movement. The Republicans got scared by it, tried to co-opt it 7 years ago. That failed. Karl Rove failed. Now it's fully woken up. We've won the battle for the Tea Party. They are freaking out. We're the only opposition on the field of battle. And so you've got the national associations, the business leagues, all of them wanting more open borders, more unfair trade, more garbage, more fraud, more everything. And it's so serious. They want a full takedown. They want control of the whole empire. They don't understand that even if they want an empire, they need some free market and liberty that makes us strong and as a blood supply. They're cancer. They don't even know that from an evil perspective. They're just gobbling up every tissue, every organ, the bloodstream, the whole deal. America's like a huge, mutated, half-undead, stumbling monster right now. And the heart's still beating, the guts are still working, and the zombie is attacking itself because it sees what's still alive as an enemy, even though it's what's keeping the undead creature going. That's how screwed up these people are. I would compromise with them if they could be compromised with. They cannot be compromised with. They are evil. I want to go to Radon, Jerry, Billy, Tom. But, Steve, I promised that I'd let you finish up your point on open borders and stuff. Go ahead.
Recapping, where the Franco-Prussian War, Paris, 1871, every palace, every chalet, chateau, plundered, looted, burned, destroyed, except for the Rothschilds, meaning the Rothschilds were behind as a false flag operation, the Parisian communist takeover. That's indirect proof of that. Now, the last point I have about the Rothschilds, you talk about England. The Lord Beaconsfield Rothschild, he was so powerful that when he went out on the street in the 1800s, all the carriages and everybody, all the pedestrians had to stand at attention, petrified, as a game of statues, until the Rothschild carriage passed. And that shows me that these guys are behind, and like you said, it's some kind of conspiracy, international conspiracy behind this kind of thing to overthrow any kind of independent movement that's out there. I appreciate it, Alex.
Well, it's true. The Rothschilds indirectly funded Hitler. They funded the Bolsheviks on record. They funded Napoleon and then helped bring him down. I mean, it's all in the history books. And I have read about different Rothschilds so powerful that everyone would stand at attention, like when the Queen of England was around. And they were so powerful, they intermarried with the royalty. I mean, it's incredible. Who do you think's funding all this stuff? It's unbelievable. Radon in Idaho, you're on the air. Go ahead. Good prank call. Appreciate that. Jerry in Ohio, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing, Alex Jones? I'm a longtime listener, and hey, I do spread the InfoWars message.
Thank you, brother.
And I just want to make a couple quick comments. Here in Northeast Ohio, they're really getting the people primed to stand at attention. We got these FEMA churches that are giving out food. People got to get there like 6 o'clock in the morning, no matter what the weather's like. They won't open the doors till like 10 o'clock. But they got people that walk down the line and tell people, you know, you got to stand here, you know.
No, that's just like the Soviet Union. They had plenty of food, but it was all about making you stand at attention for 5 hours. It is training you and wasting your time and teaching you that only they have it. In Venezuela, they make the children pray to Jesus when they're hungry in the morning, and then no milk or cereal is given. Then you pray to Chavez, the milk and cereal is given.
And also, Alex, they're buying up these parks. They're creating parks, but the strange thing about it, they have a road going through them, but the road has always got a barrier that's closed. And I believe that they're going to convert some of these parks into...
Well, sir, your gut is right. It's on record that the major sports stadiums and major parks are designated as emergency centers under FEMA. So your gut is right, and it's public intel.
And one of your documents that you put out had an octopus over the globe, and it said nowhere we can't reach.
No, that was the NSA put that out. and they make jokes and say that we are in 1984 and laugh at the American people and describe us as the enemy. I appreciate your call. God bless you, sir. Great points. Let's talk to Tom in Kansas. Tom, you're on the air. And I guess that was his point about leaving the country. There's nowhere they can't reach. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Alex, I got a few points. One is strategic relocation. I bought it, read it, and watched the video. Excellent work. If I got it right, I haven't read it in some time, but I think was the Ozarks the safest place on Earth that Joel Skousen came up with?
He said it was a safer area. The best place in Texas is the Hill Country, strangely enough, where I live. Then there's also the area in and around areas of Utah into Idaho. He says that's very safe.
Okay. I wonder if that's where that prank caller was calling from.
Well, if everything collapses, that prank caller can call in and make prank calls.
Exactly. How about nascent? Let's go to nascent iodine. The RDA on the bottle is 6 drops. And I didn't feel like I was getting enough from that. So do you think it's okay to, like, take 12 or...
Sir, you do whatever you want. You need to consult your physician. We go with the FDA recommendation. I mean, under Agenda 21, in Europe, they've lowered stuff down to almost nothing, even lower than here. But whatever's good for your body, I'm not going to give medical advice here. All I can say is it's been life-changing for me. And as stressful as my life is, I've lost even more weight. I have even more stamina. And it's just been simply amazing. I mean, people can look at how I look. I mean, it's just done incredible things for me. And that's why it's a godsend that we were able to develop this product with Dr. Group and bring it to folks, the InfoWars Survival Shield at InfoWarsLife.com.
Is the other one that you talk about, it is as potent as the nascent?
No, it's got a much lower dose of the nascent iodine in it, but it can be taken with it, according to Dr. Group. It's got 5 other things that supercharge the detoxification, and that's the fluoride shield. I take both together. Then there's the Super Male Vitality, which I do take some of, and, well, let's just say, try it. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Rest his questions to him. He's as smart as I am or smarter. He can answer all your questions. He was formerly in anti-submarine warfare, then recruited by the NSA. He headed up one of their internal security operations, and he is the consummate original NSA whistleblower, testifying to parliaments, the EU, Parliament, you name it, Congress. And he basically has broken, I'd say, half of what we know, along with James Bamford and others being part of the other half. And I'm not poo-pooing Snowden. It's just that he's the proto-Snowden. But he did it back when they didn't arrest every whistleblower for exposing crime. Since then, I've just marveled at everything he talks about coming true. I want to talk to Wayne Madsen first about the purge. Dinesh D'Souza had movies coming out to try to unify America. He had another film they were going to work on later, I've been told by high-level sources, about Hillary. He's now been indicted on petty stuff, pled not guilty. The governor of Virginia could beat Hillary. He's been indicted. The Veritas Project, or Project Veritas, the governor's preparing basically to indict them with subpoenas. So they're going after everybody. And Bob Barr last week warned of this. I talked about it before it even happened. What do you know about the purge going on and this next phase of what Obama may try to do? Because he's openly behaving as a dictator now. I thought he'd leave office and just transfer dictatorial power to the executive the special interest wanted. Why would the system gamble and get this naked? Or are the Clintons doing a power move trying to actually take over? Wayne Madsen, what is your high-level inside intel telling you?
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, as the French always say. Look, the second term is always a pitfall for a lot of presidents. They get a little too cocky in their second term. They think they're they can do anything they want. Look what happened to Richard Nixon. Look what happened to Ronald Reagan. Nixon with Watergate, Ronald Reagan with Iran-Contra. There's going to be an attempt now to create a long-lasting legacy for Obama. And, look, these second-term guys think that they're pretty invulnerable, after all. We've got a lot of history to back that up. I noticed yesterday the Virginia Senate went to the Democrats by a 11 vote margin. You know, these close elections are rather, I think to see so many elections within a razor's edge. I just don't think that's statistically possible to see so many, not just in this country, but around the world. I think that they're still fixing these elections. So we've got that going on as well.
I agree with you that it's a power grab ahead of trying to get Hillary in, but there's something different. It's so rapacious, so aggressive. Do you think there's any chance they might stage domestic false flags and then try to keep Obama in office?
Well, it's funny you mention that. Look at the report today of what happened with Hamid Karzai. You know, our puppet in Afghanistan, but even sometimes puppets get a mind of their own. Hamid Karzai is now accusing the United States of staging false flag terrorist attacks that are being blamed on the Taliban to undermine his regime. So, you know, we're told that false flags don't exist, that this is in the realm of conspiracy theories. Well, I guess if that's true, we've got a new conspiracy theorist in Hamid Karzai, somebody who was groomed by the United States intelligence services, placed in power, and been maintained in power all these many years by the United States at a very expensive cost in both blood and treasure.
If we describe this as a football game, how is it going for the different corrupt regimes? Because people are waking up more than ever, but at the same time, they are just dissolving the basic liberties, putting currency controls in, capital controls in. We see the clamps going on right now. Why do you think that's happening?
Well, I think these governments, look, the jet set just met again in Davos at their annual love-in. And, of course, who was there this year? The new president of Iran, Rouhani. So it looks like Iran is now going to be brought into the fold. What's happening in Ukraine right now is really a shot at Vladimir Putin.
Let's talk about that when we come back. The geopolitical rundown report with Wayne Madsen. I can't think of a better person to give us an analysis. He's traveled the whole world as the sources. George Soros' people trying to overthrow the Ukraine after they voted down merging with the EU. We'll be back on the other side with Wayne Madsen, your phone calls, and more. Stay with us. And they're trying to make it the law in places like New York. First, it's, for the greater good. Then it becomes the law so they can dial in and watch you. And I heard a local talk show host yesterday in Austin defending the NSA warrantlessly spying on people. Saying, well, I trust them. They're the good guys. Just go ahead and spy on me. No, they're not the good guys. Even if they were good guys, you create an omnipresent system, bad guys will get control of it, and it will be abused. That's why free countries don't have that. But really, it's a sense of cowardice out there. I remember the Houston police chief 5 years ago on local television saying, we're going to put cameras in all your houses and watch you for your own good. People said, that's crazy. Well, they were just getting you ready, like MSNBC saying your kids belong to the state. The 20th time you hear it, it doesn't sound as crazy. They're conditioning us. They're using psychological warfare to where, like, well, of course smart meters track everything you do and tax you. 10 years ago, I'd tell people, and I was crazy, it didn't exist, because they knew that was 1984 10 years ago. Now it's like, well, of course it tracks and watches you. Of course the camera on the laptop watches you. And of course the schools watch your kids. And of course the police come in your house without a warrant. And of course we do forced inoculations. And of course all this is happening. Imagine living in a glass house. I think I'm going to send out my reporters to do a man on the street in Austin and to the trendy area and say, we want you to live in glass houses. You know, just in case something bad happens, we can see it going on. And I bet if we say it's for Obama, people will sign. Because they want to be trendy. I mean, it'd be racist if they didn't. Or maybe go out and say, you know, we want to make people wear clear clothing so that we can see if they have a gun on them. And maybe even have a woman wearing a tiny bikini under a plastic see-through raincoat to illustrate it. That'll get mega millions of views right there to then educate sheeple that wouldn't normally watch a video like that to say, this is how we're going to dress now to make sure there's no weapon. And like the TSA has said, and the police, we'll show clips of the state police, we need to have proctology exams now. Because there could be a bomb in anybody's butt. This is a total overthrow of all common sense. Wayne Madsen, I want to get into your geopolitical breakdown right now. You were getting into Ukraine and more in the state of the world. But before we do that, because I digressed off into this, seeing this new article that just went up on Infowars.com by Steve Watson, spy on thy neighbor as thyself is the whole of the law. That is the golden rule. Big brother is my king, my lord, my helper. Unto you I give all. Please stomp my face in. Oh, I love you. Big brother, double plus good. Wayne Madsen, I want to ask you the question here. What do you call this total transformation and the NSA coming out of the closet and all their lies exposed, but they just double down and now, oh, we're going to watch you in your house for your own good. What is happening here, Wayne Madsen?
Well, it's a global panopticon where nobody will have any privacy. A panopticon is a structure, no matter where you are in that structure, you're going to be seen from a central location. So and we would have known none of the details of this capability had it not been for all the technical diagrams and PowerPoint slides and other documents released by Ed Snowden. The latest one is this operation called Squeaky Dolphin. I mean, they come up with some of the strangest names for these cover terms for these intelligence systems. You know, it makes people think of Flipper instead of Big Brother. But we've got that now evidence that NSA is spying 24/7 in real time on Flickr, on PhotoBucket, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. And it goes on and on. So anything you do with the internet is now being surveilled by NSA. So all these NSA apologists out there, including this gang that you and I and the rest of every American taxpayer pays for, this gang up at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, two professors, and I'll name them, Tom Nichols and John Schindler, are constantly berating journalists for citing all this type of surveillance, illegal surveillance being conducted by NSA. They get away with it on our dime, and I have protested to the superintendent at the Naval War College. That guy, Admiral Carter, needs to have his star pulled. He's allowing this national security staff at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, to front for the NSA, and what
that's right. And of course, it's totally illegal to have the Pentagon operating domestically. But 3 months ago, they announced they're going to reach out to us with a psyop to alternative real media because we're actually threatening what they're doing. And it's just an incredible precedent, Wayne, when they get up on TV and Clapper goes, "We don't spy on any Americans." It's a total lie. He doesn't get in trouble for perjury to Congress, a felony. It's rapidly expanding, and it's all admitted what they do. The entire internet architecture has been built by DARPA and spec'd by DARPA for a system to predict the future to the point of Amazon shipping your order before you order it.
That's right. And you know, I got a simple challenge for the Naval War College. They claim they're only doing this in the interest of academic freedom. Well, the Naval War College is the U.S. Navy. It's part of the U.S. Navy. It's not Penn State. It's not some private school somewhere, Harvard or Yale. If they're interested in academic freedom, let the superintendent of the Naval War College establish a group of offices for you and I up there, so we can counter every one of those pro-NSA professors and do it on their nickel, which is our nickel. So, you know, if he's interested in academic freedom, I put that challenge forward to him.
Well, I know this is stuck in your craw, what they're doing, but they're not having any effect. They're pathetic. So, I mean, I think they should just continue their treasonous activity openly so we can identify them. I mean, my issue is that, you know, let us have it, scum. I mean, we're here openly being proven right. We're rising. You're falling. You picked the wrong team. You've dishonored yourself. You've dishonored the country. You've dishonored your family. So, you know, go from us. Lick the hand that feeds you. May your chains sit lightly upon you. Shifting gears into the geopolitical. And then I want to get back. First off, NSA. You're usually telling us days or weeks before. Like you said, get ready for them spying on the Vatican. And 3 days later, it comes out, you know, they're spying on the Vatican. I mean, so you've got your ear to the ground. What's the next shoes to drop with the NSA?
Look, we only have about 2% of the documents that Snowden is said to have retrieved from all those various NSA databases. I think what we're going to hear, if we are allowed to see these, and these are, let's face it, these are only being released in piecemeal fashion to many different media organizations. It's really hard to look at these in total. But wait till we start seeing some stuff about historical documents from the NSA on from 9/11, for example. I think we're gonna see that Cheney and the rest of that gang, Rumsfeld, lied, as we all said they did. But I think that's going to be backed up with some evidence from a system at NSA called Criticom, the Critic system. This is used to send critical messages about hijacked airplanes, for example. So
it's kind of like Nixon got hung and on his own petard whenever his own tapes burned him. That's
right. So if this stuff, I can't believe he doesn't have that stuff. I think he knew exactly what to go after. In addition, squeaky clean and egotistical giraffe and all this other stuff. I would think that the 9/11 stuff, and Snowden's already said, that he's got this doomsday thing. If they go after him, the stuff's going to be released. I think that's probably what we're talking about. When it's released, I don't know. I just wish this stuff had just been released in full to somebody like John Young at Cryptome, who I would note is also now being attacked by that Naval War College.
Now, let's get John Young back on the show, guys, ASAP from Cryptome. By the way, if I was Snowden, I'd never come back. I mean, the globalists are never going to let him get away with what he's done. That's too big an example to other people to be a hero. They're going to try to, through back channels, claim he's a double operative or a Russian spy, all this complete crud. Yeah. The Russians tried to get rid of him. The Russians know what the NSA is doing.
Yeah, last month, Alex, I reported on an attempt by the British Embassy in Moscow to try to rendition Snowden out of Moscow, and it failed because I went on Russian television, the Russian language television, not RT, Russia One News, and said, look, this is the plan. It involves the MI6 at the British Embassy. I named the MI6 head at the embassy as being in charge of this. They were going to try to use another American who worked at NSA in Moscow as a lure for Snowden. It failed. And then we heard about the attempts to maybe try to kill him. But Putin has already given him now permanent asylum. It was 1 year, but he's extended that permanently. I think he's best staying in Russia. I would certainly do it if I were in his shoes.
And by the way, now I guess they're giving him Russian security because of these threats that you broke. Just like you broke that they had tapped the undersea cables, said exactly which ones. You said the Germans had tapped the Mediterranean, that they were involved. Merkel then came out and claimed, oh, they're spying on me. But everything you said in The Guardian turned out to be true. But instead of saying, oh, you're right, they make fun of you on CNN and then basically deep six the article.
Well, and that's because it's not just the NSA that has this propaganda operation. Anybody who criticizes anything that Obama's involved with, so it was CNN and Daily Beast, which is the Daily Beast might as well be an Obama newsletter. Why don't they just have him as the editor of it? He has some experience. He supposedly edited newsletters at Business International Corporation when he worked for the CIA. But Putin is now, because the Sochi Olympics start on February 7th. Look, Ukraine is to the west of Sochi, Georgia's to the right, and you've also got all those Muslim republics in the Caucasus. They are really, and then you got Prince Bandar following through with his threat to disrupt the Sochi Olympics.
Let's stop right there. This is the one thing I wish I had the money to do. I'd have like 2 analysts who sit in there and record and write down everything you say, and our other guests, and when it comes true, cover it. It was 3-4 months ago, you reported on the Russian news that Bandar had said that he was going to start activating al-Qaeda ahead of the Olympics and during it to ruin the Winter Olympics. If they didn't back off in Syria, they've now gone ahead with that. I mean, it's just, tell us what's coming next then, because you've been breaking all this.
Well, I think the Russians are very concerned. So now they've allowed the U.S. to station law enforcement officials in Russia, in Sochi. You've got the U.S. Navy that's going to be right off the coast. The Russians were concerned at first. Now they're more welcoming of that presence. But I would be very concerned if I were the Russians that this U.S. military and law enforcement presence isn't used to facilitate something in Sochi rather than prevent it. So I would be very concerned. Obviously,
the Russians are as smart as we are, so let me ask this. Why are they allowing those ships in? I mean, what's the point of that? Just, I guess, to just take the high road, or what's the point?
Now, if anything happens, they can say, look, the blame goes around. It wasn't just our security that failed. Look, the U.S. had their people here as well. But
oh, I get it. They're hedging bets and spreading the blame.
Exactly, which you might expect them to do. But, Sochi, it's such, the whole attempt is with the boycott because of Russia's policies on gays and all this other thing. Now we've got the Soros topless trollops, the female women protesting against Putin.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I don't want Russia to run Ukraine, and I don't want the EU, that's like a new Soviet empire, sucking them dry. Ukrainian for the Ukrainians. The Russians have backed off Ukraine. Now they've got Soros, when they voted a month ago not to join the EU, literally trying to burn that place down. He is a seditious little bastard since the days of him being a main collaborator with the Nazis, hunting down Jews. And if you point that out, which he admitted on CBS 60 Minutes, you're called anti-Semitic by the ADL.
Oh, that's right. I mean, Soros is what Soros is. He's a provocateur. He makes money. Remember, he has a hedge fund called the Quantum Fund. When there's any kind of disruption in places like Ukraine or Russia or anywhere else, he makes money on that. And he comes across as this progressive. He's not a progressive. He's the perfect villain for the next James Bond movie. As a matter of fact, he may have already been the villain in Quantum of Solace. I don't think it was a mistake that Quantum was the villain in the last couple of James Bond
That's
movies.
right, and they're trying to shut off the water to quadruple the prices.
That's right.
Which is an actual scam he's run in Latin America over and over again.
And the whole idea of getting Ukraine in the EU is to get them to start accepting genetically modified foods from Monsanto. Ukraine is the breadbasket for Russia, and what better way to penetrate Russia? And China also buys wheat and soy from Ukraine. So what a better way to penetrate these two markets that right now ban genetically modified.
Well, here's the deal. If Ukrainians want to overthrow their government, that's their issue. But when it's a foreign orchestrated, those protesters are on record working for foundation groups. They're basically enemy soldiers.
Yeah, and the street brochures handed out to the protesters in Maidan Square in Kiev are in Ukrainian, but they're the same leaflets that were handed out to those in Tahrir Square in Egypt, and we know how well that one turned out.
Yeah, trying to turn those countries over to al-Qaeda. But look, none of that's going well for them. I would say Brzezinski's operation right now, I'd give him a C-. It's almost an F.
Absolutely. I mean, Brzezinski is a well-known nationalist, Polish nationalist, who's always had a thing about bringing down Russia. And why people like him and Albright, who had a problem with the Slavic countries in the Balkans, Yugoslavia, why these people are allowed to be secretaries of state and national security advisors are beyond me. We can throw Henry Kissinger in the mix. They bring their baggage from their home countries. They might as well come over on one of those tramp steamers with all the baggage and luggage that they bring into our national office. And then they bring all that, and it affects our foreign policy in a very adverse way.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a new listener, folks, we're not left or right here. It's about what's justice and the high ground, the moral high ground. We're builders, not destroyers. We want to build America, build the rest of the world, work together. Then if you double cross us, we crush you. But we're sick of being the bad guys, while the very same programs of deindustrialization that the West is using against other people are being used against us. These are anti-prosperity thugs running things. They're gangsters, and we're done with it. And they're trying to cause World War III with the Russians. And, it's time they go down. Wayne, I want to take some calls the next two segments when we come back, folks that are holding on exiting the U.S. Matt Drudge sent out a tweet yesterday saying, have an exit plan. We've retweeted that at Real Alex Jones. When is it time that we haven't backed these people off? When do we evacuate? I know you've left the country for a year before when they were sending a hit squad to kill you. So when do we leave, if ever? Homeland Security drone crashes off Cali coast. Authorities want remote access to California's homes, CCTV feeds. Not just footage, it's feeds. Should probably change that word to feeds. They want live feeds inside your house. Also, bank run fears escalate as Russian lender bans cash withdrawals. That is mega huge. Police state gets ready for Super Bowl. What is it, 48? I'm going to do a special video on that in the next few days. FEMA preparing for motor coach evacuation of general population. That is just some of the news up on Infowars.com. And again, up on DrudgeReport.com, backing in GOP for illegals to make them legal. I mean, just incredible. They're getting everything they want right now. Wayne, this is a short segment. I'm going to come to you in just a moment. But be thinking about this question. I'm going to come back to you in a moment. What's happening with all the capital controls, the cash controls in Europe, the U.S., Russia, you name it? I'm going to ask you that question in a minute. And any other big breaking news we haven't covered, then we'll do one little segment, take some calls, take some more calls, then go to our next guest at 20 after in the next hour. I want to move that guest there and give them the last 40 minutes. But first off, this is a listener-supported transmission. And we need your financial support to continue and to be able to expand. Just to continue, we need your support. We need to be able to expand. In the face of this tyranny, we're upping our game. We're all in. What's the point of fighting? We don't fight all the way. We have a chance of winning. Go to InfoWarsStore.com. The best books, the best films, the best liberty-based apparel to meet like-minded people and spread the word. InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWarsStore.com. Or you can simply go to InfoWarsLife.com. It'll take you to the area of the store that has the Survival Shield, Nascent Iodine, the Super Male Vitality, the Fluoride Shield. I wanted to come out with medical doctors, researchers, and others with the best supplements out there. Really the highest quality, organic, the most expensive, quite frankly, for us. Other stuff we could get to be a fraction of this, to really bring you super high quality at a very reasonable price, in some cases a low price. And then that funds our operation. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. Same number for all the products, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. Now, Wayne, you heard my question there about what's happening with the currencies. And again, you've always got your ear to the ground. What are they getting ready for? We've seen dollar jitters. We've seen suppression of gold prices coming out in mainstream news. We see a lot of trouble holding down inflation. Will they keep going QE unlimited? What's happening?
Well, they may want to keep this going with this printing up this worthless currency, but I get a sense, and I've been out here in the Pacific Northwest for last several weeks. I'm getting the feeling that people are starting to hunker down. That this disease of massive consumerism. I got to buy this. I got to buy this. I need more. I need more. It's people are starting to realize that's not the way to go. They're buying only what they need. I think we see more in the way of bartering going on. At least I've seen it here in the Northwest. I think this is sending shockwaves through the business system, the moguls of finance and banking, and they've got to create some sort of a artificial crisis to get themselves out of this because people are getting smart. They're not going to put up with this anymore, and they're no longer just buying for the sake of buying. And they can say what they want about the last Christmas shopping season, but sales were way off, and people now are not using as much gasoline. What is that doing to the oil companies? That means they can't justify the Keystone pipeline anymore. They can't justify fracking because people are getting smarter. As I say, they're starting to hunker down. And when they lose these compliant consumers, then you're cutting into their bottom line, and they hate that. So
that's right. They want us poor. They want us poor, but in their system, stay there. Man, I could have Wayne Madsen on for 5 hours. Anytime he wants to come to Austin, we need to get him back down here. Maybe on his way back to Florida or D.C., he stays in both places. He'll come back in the studio. There's so much to get into. But that's something that the head cop over 4 counties, the liaison running the Bilderberg coverage, he was so fair and good to us compared to what I see here in the U.S. so many times. He privately said, why have you invited me to dinner at a big corporate chain? I listen to your show. If you want to beat these people, you got to only buy local. He goes, that's all I do. And he was really mad at me, genuinely. And I felt rebuked. And I said, well, I try to only shop local, but I'm on a big trip. It's the only big hotel in the area for my guys. He said, no, you could have gone to locals. We don't have a future under globalism if people like you don't stop being hypocrites. And I was just like, whoa. But I guess he was right. He's like, man, you claim you're fighting tyranny? You got a problem, Jones. And it felt good to have him explain that to me, because really, it's not that any of us are perfect, but we've got to reprove each other. And I think that's what you were getting at, Wayne Madsen.
Right. Stay away from these big box stores and the big chains. I think that's what's hurting. These people that meet in Davos and Bilderberg. They get together. They don't think about people like you and I. A billionaire is nothing to these people. You got to be have over $100 billion to play in their game now.
Very well said. I want to keep you about 10 minutes over into the next segment to take some of these calls. You game to do that, Wayne Madsen?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's jam in one now, folks. And I know you called him before he came on, but he can speak on any subject. Billy in California wants to talk about what I said I'd ask Wayne. We'll ask that now. Exiting the USA. Is there anywhere to run?
Well, we only have to look at Ed Snowden to figure that one out. Where can he go right now? And people have asked me what's safe for him. He could probably get asylum in Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, one of these countries in Latin America. But Latin America is in the U.S. sphere of influence. It's the playground for the CIA. And although we have very bad relations with Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Brazil right now because of our involvement, interference in their affairs, we got all kinds of ne'er-do-wells that wander around those countries. I don't think it'd be all that safe there. Europe, of course, that's all EU and NATO. They would just turn him over in a minute from any country, from Finland all the way down to Portugal would be more than happy to turn him in for a few extra, euros or dollars from old Uncle Sam. So China, even China, China will not do anything that will adversely affect their ability to make money. And if they feel Snowden's doing that, they may, in fact, be more than willing.
That's right. I mean, you got to say it. As bad as the Russians have been at many levels, everybody says it. Putin looks so much more honorable with his pro-family stance, his anti-radical Islam stance that's real, not fake. Everything he's done, saying he's a Christian, everything flies in the face. And, it would have been better for them to just turn Snowden over. What do you think's going on in Russia?
Well, Putin's standing his ground. I mean, he did not want to see Ukraine join the EU and hence they go into NATO. Whatever happened to Madeleine Albright, who said NATO would never extend into Eastern Europe? This is what she said early on. This is what Warren Christopher said. This is what Bill Clinton said. And no sooner had they said it, they were already bringing in Poland. And now it's the Baltics. And now they want to bring in Ukraine and Georgia.
And the Russians watched them bomb Serbia and hand a third of that over to al-Qaeda. I mean, the Russians see what's happening.
Absolutely. So Putin is standing his ground on this Femen group, and then there's a group called Boina, and then there's another, there's all these other Soros-backed groups. They're always staging these protests, topless protests in the whole.
Absolutely. Stay there. I want to come back to you. But I mean, George Soros wants to overthrow America and all these other countries. He is a globalist operative, one of the most famous living Nazi collaborators, and he runs the left. And they're gearing up for economic collapse through which they'll bring in their new global cashless society. They're trying to phase out cash everywhere to kill the barter economy. They're trying to create federal squads, $15 million fines for garage sales. I'm not joking. That's Fox News reporting that. If they find any recalled item going back 20 years, well, I mean, there's tens of thousands of things that have been recalled. Just all sorts of ways to scare everyone because they're predatory. So the answer to their Agenda 21 is to only buy local when you can, and to support local businesses, and to buy organic, and to support alternative media. It's real simple. We have to absolutely put the establishment under siege because they're trying to put us under siege. Doesn't it come down to that, Wayne?
Oh, absolutely it does. And I think, like I say, I'm encouraged at what I see in here in the Pacific Northwest. I just hope this is going on all over the country, that people are supporting local businesses, local organic farmers, and I can't agree more. Buy local, stay away, and even state banks and local banks, leave the Bank of America's. The local banks are under attack. The Banking Reform Act was written to shut them down. We've got to go be with local banks. Absolutely.
Well said. I mean, this is a takeover, folks. These people don't want commerce. They want controlled commerce. Billy, your point on exiting the USA. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'll be quick. My class just started. I got a point and a question. So Matt putting that out on the exit strategy, it kind of, to me, it shows that he knows the trajectory of the civilization. And he already has his own exit strategy, but it's kind of a warning for the rest of us. But to me, there's almost nowhere you can run. I mean, if you completely exodus, leave America, get out of here, go to Chile, go to Switzerland, wherever, that means that you've kind of given up and they're just going to take full control of America and the rest of the globalist countries that they control. So that's just a point real quick. But a question for you and Wayne, do you think that we have enough patriots to basically align everybody and take it back over? Because I think we do. But I think the globalists are just really good at consolidating their power, aligning themselves, and actually turning that into a weapon. Do we have that? I think we do. But what does it look like? Question for you and Wayne real quick.
I mean, I think so often you have to just double down, even if it looks like things are pretty dark, and then it's that standing and resisting that ends up giving you the moral high ground. I mean, as bad as Russia is on so many fronts, our elite are so evil. Russia worldwide looks like the good guys, even in the words of people like Pat Buchanan. And it's not that Putin's even that great. It's that compared to these people, he's a saint. And so we have to be that example. And I mean, sure, if they're trying to send a hit squad to kill you, and Wayne was warned by three different high-level people, he left for a year. And then when the threat was over, he came back. So you got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. Wayne Madsen, your answer to that. I mean, what do we do? I mean, can we beat them?
Stay here and fight. Look, I'm encouraged by what I've seen. I can use maybe this opportunity to get in a shameless plug, but there's a director out here in the Northwest, Eric Stacy out of Portland, has just completed a film. We're coming up in a few days on the 1-year anniversary of the horrible death of Phil Marshall, who wrote about 9/11, the pilot. United Airlines 767, 757 pilot, wrote 2 books on 9/11, was working on yet another, was involved in Iran-Contra with Barry Seal. In just a few days, the 1-year anniversary of his horrible death with those of his 2 children in Murphy's, California. There's a docu-novel coming out called Unthinkable, done by Eric Stacy, who's got 8 films under his belt. And again, here's a guy who has a long history in Hollywood. His dad was the assistant director to David O. Selznick on some movies people may have heard of, Gone with the Wind and A Star is Born. He's completed this docu-novel, or docudrama, I should say. You and I are in it because they've got one of our interviews in the movie. It opens just a few blocks off Broadway on April the 11th at the Quad Cinema in Manhattan. So anyone in that area, I would really urge them to see this. This shows that in a docu-novel kind of way, docudrama kind of way, that Marshall was taken out by a hit team because of what he was working on.
Sure, and again, it doesn't mean this one film will save the world, or one book will save the world, but all of us that have the means, in one level of the media or not, to communicate, they want to shut our speech down because it's effective. So when they kill somebody or arrest Dinesh D'Souza, look, if a Republican had had somebody like Michael Moore arrested, even if it looked like he might have been guilty, but it was political, I would stand with Michael Moore, even though I detest him. Because, folks, if you don't stand for free speech for everybody, everyone loses it. It's elementary. Thank you very much, caller. Great points. William in New York, you're on the air with Wayne Madsen. Go ahead.
Yes, how are you? Alex Jones, Mr. Madsen. How are you?
Good, good. Go ahead.
Jones, I just wanted to make a quick point, like a pointed question like Billy, if you don't mind. Alex, I'm a loyal supporter. I respect you, but I'm getting really irritated every time I hear of you speaking of leaving this country. I mean, talk of leaving this country, you know, in such a cynical fashion as our country balkanizes. You know, ardent patriots will stay. And like Mr. Madsen said, stay and fight. I just quoted you before, Alex, saying, what's the point of fighting if you don't fight all the way?
Well, listen, I want to be clear. I've just had the larger discussion because I'm actually at the level of people they're going to purge. They intend to. And so I'm having a discussion with people so they can realize how serious this is. And I said at the end of the discussion an hour ago, or more than an hour ago, that I intend to fight on to the end, whatever the cost may be, and basically paraphrased the Churchill speech. But at the same time, then I think, is that the wrong strategy? It wouldn't be giving up on America. It'd be like if I was French and the Nazis took over and I ran to England for 3 years and then came back with the resistance. It wouldn't mean, you know, run away, live to fight another day. I'm saying my gut tells me you're staying. My cerebral cortex tells me, you know, run with the rebels, you know, and regroup to take on the Death Star later. So that's what I'm saying, sir. And so that's the larger discussion. But I hear what you're saying.
Not all people have enough money to flee, and those are the people that are going to be the true patriots shedding blood for this country, and that's what it's all about.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was saying that the true patriots are going to be the ones that don't have money to leave this country, and those are the true patriots that are going to shed blood for this country. That's what it's all about.
Well, listen, I've been here, and I wear a lot of hats, and I go out in public without bodyguards and the whole 9 yards. So I'm not afraid of killing people or being killed. I just see all the angles. They want to have a civil war if they can pull it off and blame us properly. So I'm on the air trying to stop a civil war from starting while explaining if one begins that they're the ones that are behind it and they're illegitimate. So you got to know in war, it's always been mainly information or what they call propaganda. So I'm in a truthful war against the propagandist to point out who they really are. We're the most important component in this fight. If they start trying to purge everybody, it's on. My big thing is the average military and cops are just compartmentalized fools. It's not going to hurt the New World Order to kill them, even though people are going to be forced to. I just hope everybody knows who's behind it, because that's who's going to be in Europe sitting out of the fight while we kill each other like a bunch of morons. I hear you, and I appreciate your call. Wayne Madsen, in closing, what do you say to that and the attempts to demonize the proto-Tea Party, the Liberty Movement, the Pentagon training for it, the governor of New York saying if you're a gun owner, you know, basically a Christian, get out of my state? I mean, they do want to come after the real Tea Party. They do want to have a civil war. They say their main enemy is the returning veterans. Why do they see the libertarians as the only enemy?
Because it's divide and conquer. They want to, it's us versus them, and them are the people of this country. I've been involved out here in Seattle and helping to feed homeless people. You talk about a group that's organized. These people survive on the street. And you know their biggest threat, well, they always have a threat from the cold weather, the rain, but the biggest threat is from Department of Homeland Security thugs that come around and rouse them out of where they're sleeping, trying to get a few hours.
Yeah, I saw that in the news. They now have federal police in almost every major city, and all they have to do is be mean to homeless people. The
Department of Homeless Security, I guess, is what it is now. Why do people put up with this kind of thing? The people who are the most defenseless being harassed by these thugs who actually look at these people who they could easily be those people themselves. These people got injured on the job in some cases, couldn't get workman's comp. They exhausted their unemployment. They had no other choice.
And a lot of times they're somewhat whacked out. If I spent a week on the streets, I'd be whacked out.
Yeah. Most of them I encountered were not, they were not drunk. That maybe 15% you could say were on drugs or drinking, but most of them are. No,
most of them I found are guys that their wife divorced them. They went bankrupt because of child support. Yeah. And now they've got bad credit and can't get an apartment. And they're just totally freaked out and broken. I talk to homeless people all the time, and most of them now are broken men.
But these are the people who
and veterans
know how to survive. And I'll tell you, I would want those homeless people on my side if it ever comes to where we have to challenge these authoritarian powers. They've been out there. They know how to survive. They know what they're doing.
Wayne Madsen, thank you so much. People can find your new ebook on your website, thewaynemadsenreport.com. Thank you, my friend, my fellow Liberty lover. We'll talk to you soon.
Good to be with you, Alex.
Be with Wayne Madsen. We'll be right back with our next guest and your phone calls as well. Stay with me. Guy on to talk about that who's been tracking it for years, and I appreciate him coming on. Jerry Peterman, FukushimaUpdateReport.com. He began his professional engineering career in TV radio in the 1960s, and he left television and radio to begin a 14-year career in nuclear physics. and he invented the first microcomputer, micro lead 1, changed the standards for lead-in paint detection, lead-in paint detection, the prevention of childhood lead poisoning. He worked to craft and lead the paint health standards legislation. The owner of his own nuclear laboratory, Warrington Labs, located 4 miles north of, I'm not going to go over the entire stuff that he's done. He served 14 years as state Texas licensed radiation safety officer and health security officer. I'm not going to go over it all. But he comes on with us today to, this is a short segment, long segment coming up, to break down really how bad Fukushima is with all the wreckage now arriving on the West Coast, where he thinks it's all going, the other leaking reactors all over the world. It's like the government doesn't care anymore. They just there's no standards. I mean, here's an example list, and we're going to him. I've got 2 articles here. Obama's ambassador to Norway knows nothing about Norway, and then brags about how he knows nothing about Norway. And there's a video of this, nominee to be next ambassador to China, quote, "I'm no real expert on China." I mean, you're supposed to hire people that have lived their whole lives living there, studying it. I mean, and that's what the British defense expert said last week. He said, these people basically know nothing up there. They just know gangster stuff. And that's what I'm saying. They're in control, but they do not know what they're doing. And I think that's part of the problem with this elite, is that just like Rome and other civilizations that became corrupt, in 410, as the Germans and the Vandals were approaching, when they finally destroyed Rome forever, they said, you know, the barbarians have run over our military. They're 40 miles away. And they said, bring in more slave girls. Throw more people to the lions. And they said, they're going to kill everybody. You've got to organize some emergency, defend the city. They just couldn't do it. They were too busy throwing their political enemies to lions. And I'm telling you, folks, that's where we are. 3 minutes till break. I want to go to our guest, Jerry Peterman. Jerry, what is the state, as somebody who's watched it like nobody else, of Fukushima? What are we really facing?
Denial, denial, denial. Let's spend more money on the Olympics than taking care of our own people. Let's have absolutely no sense of humanity. We don't care about our own kids. Even our own government changed the radiation level acceptability when it started showing up on the shores a few weeks after it happened. I come back to what was said during the McCarthy era, when they asked Senator McCarthy, have you no shame? These people have none.
How bad's the radiation? I know you track all the radiation detectors in the nation that are hooked into the internet.
It's bad. It's going to cause some deaths in the United States over a long period of time. We have a situation where 3 out of the 4, for certain 3 out of the 4 reactors have experienced the China syndrome kind of thing, where the cores have melted down through the base concrete in the buildings. The explosions were so great that some of the core material was thrown as much as 2 kilometers away. That material has gotten in the ocean. That material has been plowed under by bulldozers. It's a willy-nilly kind of a effort out in the Fukushima area. Seemed to be without regard to the humanity of the Japanese people. Then they go further by passing laws saying you can't even talk about it. But we're going to have the Olympics.
That's right. As you know, 2 weeks ago, they passed a martial law edict where you can't talk about the radiation levels in Japan. And, of course, it's the mafia openly running Japan. It's the same deal. It's mafia government. And these mafia people, whether they be in the U.S. or Japan, they just think their baloney trumps reality.
I found here lately, I was on another program with Arnie Gunderson, and now, in the last 2 weeks, everybody's attacking Gunderson. They're saying, oh, he has no credentials. Oh, you got to do this, got to do that. And they're beginning to be scared because people don't buy their baloney anymore. And I'm suspecting that some of these really, really outlandish claims of we're going to, fry eggs on the beach because of radiation are actually misinformation.
Stay there. I want to hear about that. Tell me about that. That's basically what he said. He said it's like Chernobyl. You'll just see an increase in cancers across the board, unattributable to that. And, he said millions will probably end up dying, of cancers down the road, but we'll never know. And the Northern Hemisphere gets more and more radioactive. My bigger issue is that they just don't seem to care now, and there's more and more of these disasters happening. But you were getting into, there are groups out there that put out sensational stuff that isn't really true, that the media can then focus in on. But then you get like 14 times what it's supposed to be in San Francisco, and the media says, well, that's true, but it's not a big deal. And as you said, the EPA raises the levels of what they say is safe. So, that's my big issue, and I want to break down Fukushima with you. But go ahead and make your point. The break ran into the satellite, cutting in, and it was you were saying something like you think it might be disinfo on purpose, saying people can fry eggs on the beach.
I think that there's just too much of the garbage and the silliness about we're all going to fry next week. And then when somebody actually comes out and does an expose on this, like, for example, your team goes out there and finds active levels of material on the beach, then you're chunked into the category of the same loons that put out bogus garbage. And I can't help but wonder if bogus garbage was put out there so that your good work would be laughed at or whatever, or not taken seriously.
Now, I could ask the questions here, but I want to give you the floor to talk about your research and where you think we really are.
I think we are given right now a golden opportunity to see the future. I think Fukushima is an example of what could happen many times over, even in our own country, maybe not from a tsunami, but we have a large number of those plants that were manufactured. They're identical. The reactors are identical to the ones that were installed at Fukushima. And I think by understanding that if we had a coronal mass ejection or something like that, we'd have huge numbers of reactors that would begin to operate exactly like Fukushima. The only difference is, in most cases in this country, we have a whole lot more control rods, spit rods at each site than Fukushima has. That's hard to believe, but that's a fact. And so it gets kind of scary. We also have at least 6 that I know of, that may be as high as 20 that are on fault lines in this country. Fukushima's a lesson, and I'm afraid everybody's playing at recess and they're not listening to the lesson. We have a situation in Japan that the wind will change and the material will drift over the rest of the whole island. And you can go to Tokyo and get high readings, but the government's saying, oh, no, everything's fine. Hey, I'm going to eat some of this seafood. Prime Minister Abe's going out and eating seafood. I'll bet he is.
Amazing. You've had so many of the TEPCO people that were there now die, and you've got cover-ups going on. I agree with you, though. For me, Fukushima is a golden opportunity to try to educate myself and others. But it's also an education in how governments and corporations, again, are delusional now.
Absolutely. We're looking at a corporation that has no clue about to do anything. As Gunderson said, I think it was on Joyce Riley's show, said something about these people are operators. They're not engineers. They haven't got a clue. They know how to operate a system once it's designed and put in. But beyond that, they're only operators. And now we don't have enough people to operate the facilities. So what do? They go find homeless people on the streets of the major cities, and they're considered disposable people. They give them a nice hot meal, a fancy white suit, and tell them they're going to do something really important for their country. Well, what Japanese person in that society wouldn't be honored to do something for their country? They don't even understand that they're going to die.
So the government that's dishonorable uses the honor of its good people against the people.
Yes, of course they do. That's why nobody, well, I won't say nobody, but there's very few people marching in the streets demanding, why is my little daughter or my son now have some kind of lesions on the thyroid? You've got a huge number of children in the whole country that are showing signs of thyroid, future thyroid cancer. At least in the Chernobyl situation, Poland, for example, went out and immediately handed out the iodine, and virtually no person ever came down with thyroid cancer.
I had the Navy lieutenant on yesterday, and they filed suit, as you know, against TEPCO with his lawyer, who's in a wheelchair and on a catheter now, and they've got a whole bunch of people it's happening to. Well, you heard it good for new listeners. They didn't even give the people, except the pilots that were flying over, or if you were on the deck, they didn't give them iodine, even though they had it on the Ronald Reagan. That's correct. Absolutely. Again, the attitude of, they're disposable people. I believe you made the comment, well, why wouldn't they, somebody said, why don't they use monkeys? People cost less. Wasn't that something that was on your program? Yes, that's something my dad was told by a research scientist. Yeah, exactly. And that's the attitude that TEPCO had. TEPCO just lost their chairman because he floated a trial balloon to try to raise a lot more money for this project by taxing or raising the rates on the ratepayers so that their profits would remain high. And finally, it got out, so he had to resign. So he had to replace that particular chairman. That happened 3 weeks ago. Well, you've been studying reactors for decades as an engineer and a licensed radiation safety officer and health officer. What would you do to clean up the nuclear industry? What's your view on nuclear power? A long time ago, I was like you. I thought it was a good idea. I could see how it could be safely operated. We used to talk about putting the material in the containment and Yucca Flats and burying it. But the Defense Department decided to buy all the old rods and turn them into weapons and to depleted uranium weapons. So how we've dumped 40,000 tons of that material on the Middle East, and that's that. The nuclear power industry is the most dangerous thing we've ever done in the history of the world. Because if you had one, or let me ask you this. Do you remember that idiotic program on public television that said After Man? And there were deer running around. Yes. And, it's just going to be so great. Well, here's the scenario. If you have a coronal mass ejection, like the Carrington event in 1858, 59, where all the electronics fry on this planet, the first thing you would have is all of the buildings, which now have wire in them, catch on fire. So you're standing around choking to death in the dark. 6 weeks later, all of the 711 nuclear power plants that we have would go critical. So we're one Carrington event from mass extinction of every living thing on this planet. And I think Einstein said it well. He said it's a hell of a way to boil water. And a friend of mine says, what do you mean by that? And I said, okay, I'm going to boil water in a bucket out in the backyard. In a year, you can find the ashes. In 10 years, you can't. In 100 years, you can't. In 1,000, in 10,000. But if I boil equivalent amount of water with the uranium material that they're using now, 4.5 billion years from now, I can find the waste of when I boiled water for a single day. Now, somebody is nuts. That's right. The more you study the nuclear power industry, the more you realize they are a menace. And again, they had DU back in the 50s. They wouldn't allow it to be used till 1990. There's a fundamental insanity by the people running the social engineering and the decision-making process. And I think, Alex, we have people now who I genuinely believe, like you're talking about the people say they sold their soul. I think we're dealing with leaders who have no soul. We're dealing with people, corporations have no soul. I mean, it's supposed to be under the law. That's a person. Well, that's a soulless person. So if you're working for a corporation like TEPCO, it has no soul, and the people are there to maintain the corporation. So they're working for a soulless entity, and there isn't any conscience in a corporation unless they're good people. Well, we found out there are very few good people there. They're willing to use the poor and the uneducated, and they're willing to sacrifice their own
children, the next generation, and possibly a lot more people if they come over there for the Olympics. Now, who are these people? What right do they have to do that?
I think it's about the fact that they don't have the right, and they are vandalizing the planet, the species, the genetic genome of the entire biosphere. They come to kill, steal, and destroy. I've only read in history in all cultures about one entity, whether it be fiction or real, who behaves like this, and he has a name. It's Lucifer, Satan, the devil. I mean, that's really what I think it comes down to.
Absolutely. Let me tell you what these people, this is the thing that I just have to laugh in irony. These people say, well, it's not so bad. There's just a little bit in the water, blah, 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 blah. Yes, but it's a gift that keeps on giving for a minimum of another 4 to 6 generations. There's no control of this thing. Now, let's assume for just a moment I'm Harry Potter and I can make all the radiation go away in the whole world, even Fukushima. I'm sorry, but we still have something that will last forever, and that is the genetic damage and mutations that will be transmitted from now on in every species in the ocean that has just a little bit or a lot. They're tiny mutations. We eat that stuff. There are tiny mutations in us. It's going to permeate the planet. That those little mutations, even if no more radiation were present, that it damages the ecosystem, the genome of the entire planet. So a little is just as deadly as a lot.
And by the way, you're also an author. We could talk about that. But going back here, looking at this, when you talked about these events that happened over 100 years ago when they had a mass coronal ejection from the sun that caused telegraph wires all over the country to catch on fire and burn down houses and in Europe, and of course now there's conservatively thousands of times, if not, I don't know, millions of times, I don't know the number of wiring, nobody knows it, everywhere. And the Congress has done studies, as you know, admitting that they need to harden the power plants and everything, and admitting all of the nuclear power plants within 6 weeks, if we have one of these, will blow up. And then that's an end to this wonderful world without man, because that is going to irrevocably kill almost everything on the surface of the planet. I mean, this is madness, and they did all the studies before they approved nuclear power in the 40s and 50s. They know all this, and again, they just don't even care. It's crazy land.
They don't care. Alex, you know, even if we didn't have the nuclear power, we would all end up dying in the dark, because we wired every building on this planet virtually that is anything above a Hubble with wire. And if we get a Carrington event, all that wire melts, catches those buildings on fire. And if you get hundreds of millions of buildings on this planet on fire, and there is no way to operate any vehicles, no water, nothing pumps, the amount of toxins in the atmosphere make Krakatoa and those kind of events look like a birthday party.
So you're talking about a new ice age. It'll put all the smoke into the air, it'll cool the earth down, and then we will all freeze in a planetary-wide ice age.
Yes, and that would happen nowadays. If the same Carrington event happened, we would end up with a forced ice age.
And by the way, that's 100% MIT, Stanford research told Congress a decade ago, last year. All the scientists are worried about this. They're not hardening anything. Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's a nature-made, sun-made mass EMP, to put it in layman's terms. Tell folks what a Carrington event is.
In 1858 and 1859, there were very few wires strung across the world, and basically the only wires that existed at that time were telegraph systems. A Carrington event is a large ejection of charged particles from the sun, a huge belch, if you will, greater than any solar flare you've ever even thought of seeing. Now, the solar flare doesn't reach the Earth. It's not a thing that'll burn the Earth. But those charged particles leave the sun at over 1 million miles an hour. And you're looking at 93 minutes later, the Earth is hit with massive amounts of charged particles. Those particles then have a magnetic effect on any kind of metal. And the longer the metal, the quicker and the faster it is that it will absorb the energy. It actually burned people's faces who were wearing glasses in certain parts of the world where they had the wire rim glasses, and they became hot, and it didn't melt on their face because it wasn't long, the wires weren't long enough. But when you have a web inside your home, those wires are long enough, and there's no hardening. You can you'll go through and pretend that you can harden a nuclear power plant, or you can harden the grid, or whatever. No, as long as the wire is exposed to the sun, there's no hardening to it. We have built something out on the edge of a limb near a variable star. We paid no attention. We didn't learn the lesson.
We've built a time bomb, right? A huge bomb with a big fuse right up by a big campfire.
We did, and then we went out and got an entire 500,000 trailer truckloads of TNT and pulled it up to the fire. First, we built the bomb with wiring all of our homes, and then we went out and built all the nuclear power plants that can't afford to not be cooled. It's insanity. It's insanity for people. I think it was just greed. Well, I don't care about the next generation. As I said, a corporation is a soulless entity.
Well, sir, I want to get you back up for an extended hour-long special transmission on the nightly news sometimes. FukushimaUpdateReport.com for the straight dope on what's going on with Fukushima. Jerry Peterman, I'm going to come back in the final segment with a few calls and some final news. But thank you so much for your honesty and coming on to talk about these issues with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do, Alex.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it's a scientific fact that we're like Atlantis. Whether you believe it existed or not, we're now Atlantis. And the legend is Atlantis created a technology that blew their whole island up. Wonder what they created. Reportedly, people 1,000 miles away saw the explosion. And the Greeks reported it like it really happened. But listen, realize you're going to die. Passing on a civilization, passing on being honorable, passing on good things is what it is to be alive. That's all I can say. And people that have turned themselves over to selfishness and evil, they wonder why they're so unhappy. It's because they're dishonorable. By the way, it's so important to support this broadcast. It's our sponsors that make it possible. And this last hour that was so important was brought to you by mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. Delicious and easy to prepare, put together with GMO-free crops, storable for 25 years. The globalists are counting on you being unprepared. Fight back. Get prepared with mypatriotsupply.com today /Alex. Or you can simply call them 866-229-0927 and ask about their specials. mypatriotsupply.com /Alex. And in closing, before I hit a few final news stories, do some overdrive and talk to Chris and Paul and Gunther and everybody that's been holding. Oh, man, the nightly news. I think I may have to do some of the nightly news tonight or something. There's a bunch of stuff that's really big that I haven't gotten to yet. All these pedophiles killing themselves or being killed up in D.C. There's just so much stuff. I mean, we are in the grasp of a bunch of miscreants. Closing, it's not a shameless plug warning you about radiation. It's something I discovered and got into for myself, my health, and my family. And so we sell what you need. That's how we support ourselves in a win-win. The Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, so good for my thyroid, and so good for my clarity of thought, my whole body as a detoxifier. Then the Super Detoxifier Fluoride Shield that has the Nascent Iodine in it and 5 other key ingredients. Learn more, see the videos that break it down at InfoWarsLife.com. You can also find my favorite type of high mountain organic coffee from southern Mexico, Wake Up America. People agree it's great coffee. Some folks say it is their new favorite. We have the Immune Support Blend with the mushrooms that have been shown to help with cancer, immune systems, you name it, cancer prevention. It's just truly amazing. The Immune Support Blend and then the Patriot Blend. It's all available at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com. Both places will get you there, but InfoWarsLife.com will take you right to the area that has the food and supplements and things like that on it. And we do this because you support us. We're able to do this because you support us. You are not behind us. You're right beside us. In closing, I'm going to go to break and come back and jam some calls in. The Daily Mail reports, forget global warming, worry about the magnetosphere, or how do I pronounce that? Magnetosphere. Earth's magnetic field is collapsing, and it could affect the climate and wipe out power grids. Yeah, and give us a big fat ice age. Don't worry, though. Just pay Al Gore money. He'll fix it. Deep within the Earth, a fierce molten core is generating a magnetic field capable of defending our planet against devastating solar winds. And it's collapsing because you didn't pay Obama money because you're racist. That's why it's happening. The government runs everything. They can control it. They can save it. Wrong. They're a bunch of gangster thugs in trench coats that like red carpets. They're dishonorable trash. All right, you've been holding. I appreciate it. Chris in Indiana, then Paul and others. Go ahead, Chris. Welcome.
Bad news, Alex.
Okay.
Our Republican governor didn't pay Al Gore enough money, so it's only 1 degree and extremely cold and snowy here in South Bend, Indiana.
Well, that's global warming. I mean, you got to know that if we just pay Al Gore and Bill Clinton and Obama their carbon exchange, Rahm Emanuel, I mean, they're only making hundreds of millions. They need to make tens of billions. If we did that, they'd wave a magic wand, which is Al Gore's proboscis. He would wave that at a masseuse, and then it would make the Earth's core behave better. It would make the sun behave better, everything.
That's exactly right. Hey,
you realize Al Gore's energy rod is the magic wand that only can defeat Harry Potter? I mean, these people are such con artist scum, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, man, I'm never leaving, and I hope you never do either. And I just wanted to get to a couple of symbolic points here on the day of the State of the Union by our dear leader. Might as well be called our dear leader, a.k.a. Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah, what time does the gracious man who makes the sun shine and saves us from global warming, what time is our Lord and Savior on, according to Jamie Foxx?
I think it's pretty late, I think, 9:30 Eastern time, I believe, because, you know, you got to get to all those trendy Westernites over in California.
Yeah, no, I think our Fuhrer is on at 8 Central.
Oh, is it? Okay, I got to check the internet on that. But, hey.
Well, listen, I want to say on the Nightly News tonight, we'll have something live and something special. It'll either be me or David Knight doing it, but we'll have the news that airs at 7, and then I can come on live after and rant about some issues. And then as soon as he comes on, I'd like to simulcast it and talk over him the whole time. So there's an accurate version out there. This is too painful to watch twice and do it the next day on air. But I was telling them about this yesterday, but we'll see what happens. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. You want to commit more sacrilege?
Just a couple of historical symbols I wanted to point out. In the Congress Hall where our dear leader will be speaking tonight, there is 2 fasci on both sides of the American flag. And I didn't know this until recently that swastikas appeared on Russian paper money as early as 1917. I'd like to get your take on that.
Well, I mean, swastika is a good luck charm. And you go out to old ranches all over Texas, and you'll find an old barn with swastikas. It's an Indian symbol. It's a Native American symbol. It's a very powerful sun symbol. And unfortunately, it's a ruined symbol now because of the Nazis. But they're always telling temples in India to pull down 2,000-year-old swastikas. It's a sun symbol. It's a pinwheel. It's one of the oldest Norse symbols. I mean, they found swastikas that are 7,000 years old. So that's what's going on with that. But people are so ignorant, they're saying take them down. There's just no end to it. Paul in New Jersey, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, we've been taking over since the Civil War. We went into martial law, then they passed the Federal Reserve. We under communism since then. And they really locked it in 1933 after the bankruptcy.
That's right, War Powers Act. But now they're really trying to conquer the spirit itself.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, it's evil, like you said before. It's Satan, Lucifer, whatever name you want to call it. It's evil, taking over. They want to kill God's creation on this earth.
That's it, brother. Well said. I appreciate your call. You know, folks, I've got to end this transmission. Plus, with this cold front blowing, I'm about to have a sneezing attack with the allergies, which are better now that I've been drinking more water and taking the iodine. But the point is that Gunther, if you call back tomorrow, front of the line, Kevin, front of the line, same thing with Derek and others. Great job, the whole crew. We're here on the same ship, Ship Earth, Spaceship Earth, with you. And the people running things need to be in a mental institution, not on red carpets. Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock, prisonplanet.tv to see live coverage of the state of the traitor addressed to his enemies. We'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock.